In this lesson, we're going to look at a few different ways of organizing data. So for all of the examples here, we're going to use these data points, these test scores, as our data points. So one way we can do this is by doing something called a line plot. So basically, we just make a number line and then graph the points on that number line. We're going to put an X above each data point that we have. So here's the 90, so that means when we go to 90, we're going to put an X above 90. Now you'll see there's two X's here, and that's actually because there's 90 here and there's a 90 here, so we have two data points that are 90. We've also got two data points that are 100. Let's see, that one and that one. So we're going to have two X's above 100. 80, however, there's only one score that's an 80, that's right here. And so we're only going to have one X above the 80. So this is a good way to kind of see the distribution of data. Another way that we can organize these is by doing something called a stem and leaf plot. Now this is a little bit funky and it takes a little getting used to, but basically what you do is you're going to take the first digit of the numbers, or in this case, in the case of 100, the first two digits, and write them on the left side here, and then we draw a line. And then on the right side we put the second digits of the numbers. So what you see here in the second line, where you have the 8 there, that's telling you that this row is going to have all of the numbers that are in the 80s. So one of the numbers in the 80s is an 85. So the first digit is 8, the second digit is 5, so that's 85. Then we've also got an 88, so here the first digit is 8, the second digit is 8. Then we've got another 85, so the first digit is 8 and the second digit is 5. And then we've got an 80, so the first digit is 8 and the second digit is 0. And so in this row are all of the data points that are in the 80s. This row is all of the data points that are in the 90s. This is the data points that are all the data points in the hundreds. And then what we want to do for stem and leaf plots is arrange, so these are the stems on the left side, and then the leaves are all the numbers over here, the second digits in each number. So we're going to arrange the leaves just in ascending order here. So it just gives you a little bit more organization to your data if you do that. We can also make something called a histogram. And so what we do for a histogram is, it's actually essentially a bar chart, but the groups are going to be some range of data points. So for this bar, we're going to look at how many data points fall within the range of 71 to 80. And then for the middle bar, we're going to look at how many data points fall between the range of 81 and 90. And for the third bar, we're going to look at how many data points fall between 91 and 100. And so if we look at these data points, between 71 and 90, there's 3 data points. Between 81 and 90, there's 5 data points. And between 91 and 100, there's, again, 3. And so we can make the heights of these bars match how many of them are actually in that range. And then the last thing we can do here is we can do something called a box and whisker plot. So for this, before we get into the actual box itself, let's just look at how we can divide up this data. So the first thing we want to do is write the data in order from lowest to highest, and that's what's done here. So 77 was the lowest, then it goes in ascending order all the way up to the highest score, which was 100. And then you already learned how to find the median, so we want to find the median. That's the very center of the data. It's just the middle data point. So 88 is the middle data point. And then that median splits the data into an upper half and a lower half. Now, if we look at the lower half, so I'm just going to ignore all of the data points from the median up through the highest one. We're just going to ignore all of those and look at just the lower half of the data. So if you look at that, and by the way, I'm not including the median here. So we block out the median and all the ones above it. And so we're just looking at the lower part of the data here. And now if we find the median of the lower part of the data, we call that the lower quartile. So that kind of splits the data yet again in half. So quartile, think of like quarters. It's splitting the data into 4 pieces. So the median splits it into 2, and then we can take that lower half, split that into 2, and that gives us 4 divisions of the data. And then we can do the exact same thing for the upper half. So again, we block out the median and anything below the median, take the upper half of the data and find the median of that. And the median of the upper half of the data we call the upper quartile, and that splits the upper half of the data in half. Now, most of the data falls between the lower and upper quartile. And so when we're graphing this with the box and whisker plot, what we do is we actually make the part between the lower and upper quartile, we draw a box around that. And so the box indicates that most of the data falls in this box. So we have the median partway through this box, and then the upper and lower quartile tell you where to end the box. So the box ends at the upper and lower quartiles. And then the whiskers, which is these lines out here. So the whiskers tell you kind of the extreme values, the most extreme values, kind of what, how far distant these highest and lowest values are from the upper and lower quartiles.